Hey, what's up you guys? I'm Sara Lubratt, and today we are talking about how I get motivated to write. Writing motivation can sometimes be very hard to come by, and so today I'm going to be sharing with you guys 10 different ways that I use to instantly get in the writing mood. For starters, let's get one thing very clear. Writing motivation is often very fleeting, but there are some things that you can do to almost trick your brain to feeling motivated again to get back into writing your story, or starting your story for the very first time. And let me tell you, these 10 tips have been working so well for me. Tip number 1 is to plan your goals, milestones, and rewards that you will get for hitting those goals and milestones. These don't have to be like finishing my book, getting an agent, publishing, whatever. It doesn't need to be that big, and I strongly suggest not making them quite so big. One that I've been using for myself recently is that for every 1,000 words, I stand up and I do a little dance break. This is just a fun way to like kind of break up the monotony and have my body acknowledge that we are dancing, we're having fun, we're enjoying writing, we're celebrating writing, and then I get back to writing because I want to take another dance break. But that also doesn't have to be a reward system either. You could fully bribe yourself with like pizza or chocolate or something after you get the desired amount of time or word count done for the day, and sometimes chocolate can be very compelling. You could also tell yourself that when you're done with your word count for the day or the week or the month or whatever, you could like buy yourself something, you could go to the library or bookstore. Whatever it is that makes you feel like you're celebrating, do it. I have a friend here on YouTube that when she finished the rough draft of her story, she went out, bought herself a birthday cake and a bottle of wine, and spent her evening dancing around her apartment, drinking wine and eating cake. And honestly, if that doesn't sound like the perfect celebration, I don't know what does. Tip number 2 is to write with other people. Yes, that's a little bit hard considering the status of the world right now, but things have been getting better and hopefully will continue to get better. And even though that might not be in person right now, getting to go and write at a coffee shop or something, there are lots of writers who live stream here on YouTube and over on Twitch that will do live timed writing sprints and then interact with the comments and the chat in between to kind of give like a talking break where you can like stand up, go do something else, and then come back for the next writing sprint. If you have not checked out these live streams yet, I highly recommend it. I find them to be so incredibly helpful, but writing with other people is huge. Tip number 3 is to either listen to music right before you start a writing session or even while you're writing. I have made writing playlists in the past that I used to listen to right before writing, but right now what I've been doing is listening to songs that just make me feel very good and energetic, and like I just want to create something amazing, and I will listen to that as I'm getting ready for the day or whenever I'm about to start a writing session. I personally don't tend to listen to music when I write just because I find it hard if the music doesn't perfectly match up with what's going on in the scene or something. But what I do sometimes is listen to an ambient mixer. Listening to ambient sounds is incredible, especially when I'm writing alone in my apartment and it's too quiet. My personal favorite is this one right here. It is called ambientmixer.com. This is in no way sponsored or anything. I just really like them, and if you have not given them a try yet, I highly recommend it. On this website, they have so many recommendations, and my personal favorite is the Hogwarts Library. It just makes me feel like I'm in the room with other people, and it just puts me in like this intense, deep focus mindset where I feel like I can just keep writing. You can also kind of get this like genre specific if you want to. Like you can look up like dystopian, thriller, horror, romance, any kind of ambiance you're wanting to set while you're writing. There's an ambient mix for it. There's a playlist for it on Spotify. Like find it, listen to it, get in the zone. Tip number 4 that kind of actually goes hand in hand with listening to music when you're writing is having a Pinterest board dedicated to the story that you are working on. Before a writing session, when the music's on in the background, I love pulling up a Pinterest board that's either based around a character or the story itself and just scrolling through what I've pinned, seeing what's grabbing me that day, seeing if that's like inspiring any new ideas. And there's something that those pictures can just like inspire in your brain that is like, oh my gosh, like I have to write this, like right now. Pinterest boards are also great to go back to if you're feeling a little bit lost or disconnected from your story because of how quickly those images and visuals and aesthetics can pull you back into your logic and your reasoning and what's going on in that story and kind of like bring it all back to get you really pumped up and motivated to work on that project. Tip number 5 is to remember why you started writing a book. What I mean is go back to remembering how excited you were when you first started, or if you haven't started yet, lean into how excited you are about your project and use that as your motivation or inspiration to write your story, because if you're excited about it, there's a very, very, very high chance that at least one other person out in the world will also want to read it. Tip number 6 is to go back and reread a passage of a book that you have read previously that you found really powerful or very awe-inspiring, or is kind of like the epitome of what you want to aspire to. I am in no way saying to copy that or anything, but lean into that feeling of excitement and power and use that as a way to motivate yourself to write your book in hopes that someone else will one day read one of your passages in the exact same way that reading that passage worked for you. Because some passages are just incredibly inspiring. And the only way to have something that insanely inspiring in one of your books is to actually sit down and write. And then through the writing process, through the revision process, something like that might rise up from the rest of it and be like, yes, this is that scene for me. Tip number 7 is watching or listening to author interviews. There are lots of these on YouTube and Spotify and wherever else you listen to your interviews and podcasts, but there is something so incredibly inspiring about listening to someone in your field that you look up to or admire. And just think, if you actually write that book you're thinking about, you might get interviewed one day. One of my favorite author interviews was an 88 Cups of Tea episode with Sara J. Maas, and I listened to that podcast on my way to the gym one day, and by the time I got back from the gym, I sat down and just had to get writing because I was so freaking inspired by how passionately she talks about writing and how excited she gets about her writing and her stories. And so if you have not yet done this, I highly recommend looking up your favorite author and seeing if they have any available interviews where you can listen to them just talk about the writing craft, because oh my gosh, is it so cool to hear other writers talk about writing. Tip number 8 is kind of in the same vein, and that's watching other authors accomplish things that you want to accomplish. I do this by watching other authors on YouTube accomplish finishing their draft, finishing their edits, sending their book out to beta readers, getting an agent, publishing their book. Watching people on YouTube accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish can be so incredibly inspiring, because you're like, you know what? Here's everything that they went through leading up to that, but they did it and I can too. And tip number 9 is to dream about what your writing goals are. Do you want to write a book? Do you want to finish a draft? Do you want to get your book out to beta readers? Do you want to self-publish or go down the traditional route? It's important to have an idea of where you want to go with your story and what you want it to achieve. And then tip number 10, which is kind of like tip number 9.5, is visualization. Think about how you're going to feel when you write your book and you're done, or you get to hold your book in your hands for the very first time, or an agent says yes, you get to see the cover of your book for the very first time. Imagine how you feel and get really excited about those feelings. You can also use visualization by going to the bookstore and looking at books, thinking about book signings or book tours, hitting that bestseller list you dream of getting on, or winning that prize or contest you're working towards. But the important part of this is to imagine that you are the person who's on that book tour or at that book signing, signing the books. Imagining that it is your name on the book cover, that story is finally out in the world and is ready to be shared with people. And just think about and lean into how freaking excited you are about that. Can you imagine someone coming up to you and telling you that your book is their favorite book? That's wild. But it's not going to happen if you don't actually write the book. And that is the closing note of this, is that you can be motivated all day long, but unless you actually do something about it, it's not going to get done. This may feel like a call out to some people. I know that I used to feel called out about this, but ultimately it's true. So my advice is to form a writing habit, but whenever you get motivated, write. Lean into it, use it, because motivation doesn't last forever. But these 10 tips are hopefully some things that you guys can revisit and apply to your own writing practices and hopefully get motivated and stay motivated to write your book. If you think I missed something or I didn't mention something that you like to do to stay motivated, make sure you let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up because it really supports my channel. And if you want to see more videos like this from me, make sure you scroll down below, hit that big red subscribe button and that little notification bell next to it so that you don't miss another upload. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's going to be it from me today. I am currently posting videos twice a week, and so I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!